Alright guys, so this next video I'm about to make is extremely important. It may be one of my most important videos that I've made so far when it comes to dating and your approach, right? So it's kind of hard to articulate, but I'll start by saying that most women, and especially neurotypical people in general, are very against the idea of transactional relationships, right? Essentially where you're trading one thing for another thing in a very logical way, right? Because and I'll continue to elaborate, because a lot of people are very sensitive to what feels inhuman or inhumane. Like a lot of people, their natural way is that they essentially feel that you are more human if you don't have transactional relationships. So I'll try to explain what I mean by this, right? So let's say you have a friend and you do a service for them, such as you clean their house, right? Or you mow their lawn, or you come over and you fix their car or something like that. If you've noticed, a lot of the time they won't pay you cash, right? Because that would feel too transactional. So what they do is they say, oh, I'm gonna take you out to dinner, right? And then they pay for your dinner and they try to act as if it's isolated, right? Like the dinner is not a payment for you fixing their car, or not a payment for you doing service for them, because that would feel too transactional, right? This is why often friends will not pay their other friend directly with cash, or they'll come and they'll buy them a bottle of alcohol, or they'll buy, or they'll return the favor in another type of way that doesn't translate dollar for dollar. You know what I'm saying? Because people tend to feel like they don't want their relationships to feel transactional. It feels not friendly or relational, right? It's kind of complicated, but that's how it tends to be. Like maybe you buy your friend a meal and then they go fill up half your gas tank or whatever like that. They won't pay you dollar for dollar or whatever, or euro for euro or whatever, like based off what that is. Okay, so how does this relate to women? All right, so women are extremely that way. They're extremely relational beings, and part of this is actually a really good thing, because it kind of means that how do I explain it? It means that it helps, because if women weren't so relational in that type of way, then it's possible that human beings would just be having so much sex that it would literally ruin society. You know what I'm saying? Because women, the way that their sexuality works is not transactional. So a man is kind of just like, oh, a man's very simple. A man will be like, oh, I hit the gym and gain muscles and you're pretty, so let's have sex together. Like that's how men think. Is kind of more transactional, right? But women, even if they do think like that, they don't want to admit it, so they will never act upon that. They're never just gonna be like, they would never operate from the perspective of like, oh, I'm hot and he's hot, so let's just date. Like they won't, even if that's how they actually think, they're never gonna admit that, bro. So, or they're not really gonna operate from that perspective, right? So if you, how do I explain this? You have to not think from that transactional perspective, because they will pick up on that and it won't go well, right? Like you can't just be like, let me just hit the gym and get some money and get a job or good job and dress better, and then girls will date me. Like, even though that is true to an extent, like you can't think so transactionally like that. Like, oh, let me be a better man, like build myself up, and then I will cash it in for a good pretty woman, right? Even though that is technically how it works, you know, you can't think like that, because women will pick up on it and they will think that it is inhumane, I guess, if I'm articulating that correctly. So what you actually have to do is you have to be the things that they want. Like, yeah, maybe get a good job, dress better, etc., etc., etc. But don't always have that be in the background. You know what I'm saying? Always have that be background noise, right? Like, and then just focus on connecting with them and making the right moves, right? So, for example, let's say you have a nice car. Don't be always showing off your car. Just let it be in the background, right? Let it be in the background in your life. Maybe pick her up in the car, but you don't have to talk a lot about the car unless you really like your car, right? Or you don't have to necessarily show off your six-pack abs. Just let it be in the background. Like, let it be some secondary topic. Like, you're not going to talk about that or try to show it off like right away, because like I'm saying, women don't just trade one thing for another, right, in a direct trade. So this is why, for example, if you watch movies or whatever, like, if the man is going to try to have sex with the woman, I'm not promoting that, I promote, celibacy until marriage. Like, that's what I believe is the best thing. But just to understand, the man, if he wants to have sex with the woman, usually what he will do is he will say something like, let's go back to your place and watch a movie, right? Or let's go, I can help you lift those boxes up your stairs, or I can, he says something like along the lines of like just making an excuse to come over to her house, right? And even if the woman wants to have sex with him and they both want to do that, they're not gonna talk about it in a direct way. They're gonna isolate those two things. It's not gonna be like, you couldn't speak to a woman and say, let me come over to your house and have sex. Usually they'll be like, no. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's how a woman would think. I'm not promoting to do this. I'm just saying that's how a woman would think. So what a man will do is he will create two things and he will try to isolate them from each other, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna come over to your house and we're gonna watch a movie. Both of them know that watch a movie means have sex, right? But they will isolate those two things. They will compartmentalize it. Oh, we're just gonna watch a movie. Oh, we're not gonna have sex, even though that one thing will lead to the next thing. If he comes over and watches a movie, that's gonna lead to that, and they both know that. But women are they will consider it inhumane to say, let me come over to your house and have sex. I'm not saying to do this. I'm just saying that that's how they think, right? So everything you do has to be indirect. Like, it can't be like trading one thing for another in a direct way, because no woman wants to admit to themselves that they're actually just going after a guy because he's rich. You know what I'm saying? So on their wedding day, they will say, he was so kind, he was so this, but they won't mention anything, such as that. They wouldn't say things such as, oh, I would have turned him down if he didn't have money. They're not going to say that out loud, right? I'm not saying that if you're poor, you can't get married or whatever, but I'm just saying they're never going to say that out loud, that essentially is transactional to a large extent, but they're going to do everything they can in their mind to make it feel relational, if that makes sense. Oh, he was the love of my life, blah, 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 blah. But there is transaction going on under the surface. He has a good job, he has muscle, he, something, right? Because no one's going to take a deal that they don't feel is worth it, right? But they're going to make it seem as though it's not a deal, it's not a transaction, it's a, it's true love, it's destiny, it's something like that, That's what they're gonna make it seem like. So I say all this because if you want to do better with women, you have to focus on the relational side, and the transactional side you have to let it be in the background. Don't ever let women know that it's transactional, or don't think from that perspective, because they will pick up on it. And not only that, you will feel bitter. You'll feel bitter because you'll be like, I'm more attractive than her and she turned me down. You know what I'm saying? Don't think about it like that, because like I'm saying, it's not always a trade for trade. It's not always like I'm an 8 out of 10 in attractiveness and she's a 7, so therefore there's no way she will turn me down. She might turn you down because, like I'm saying, women will do their best to act from a relational standpoint rather than transactional. Even though from a transactional standpoint you probably are more attractive than her or whatever, but they will think from a relational and emotional standpoint. So she might turn you down, and so you don't want to be bitter, right? And the other thing about it is, a lot of the time you actually have to do things to get the girl. You have to ask her out twice. You have to, lead on the date. You have to actually say the right things at the right times, at the right timing, so you can focus more on doing things. If you're going to be pretty powerless if you just build yourself up, get a good income, build muscles, dress well, and just expect that girls will just come to you and say yes. You're going to be very powerless, because that doesn't really work. As far as my understanding, it doesn't really work. You have to actually do things and actively create a connection with the girl, right? And how do I explain it? It's just, you have to understand, like I'm saying, that women are more relational in that way. They consider it inhumane for it to be a transaction. I hope this makes sense. This is really hard to articulate, but women can be creeped out. They'll think okay, a lot of girls, they have this idea that there are guys that are nice to them, that want something, they're trying to get something, and then they have this idea that there are other guys who are nice simply because they are nice, right? My personal belief is that these two things are kind of inseparable. It's the same thing, all right? If you're being nice to somebody, it's because you're trying to get something from them, kind of, to an extent, right? Not always, but if you're being nice to a girl who's pretty, it's because you want something, right? You want something from them. Now that doesn't mean that sometimes people have a lot of self-confidence to the point where they have abundance to give. They can be nice to somebody and still take a rejection and still be confident. But that doesn't mean that they don't want something from that woman, right? But the women think that there are certain men who are nice that don't want anything. And these are the men that these women are comfortable around, right? And that's the thing. That's the thing about it, is that there are certain men who have kind of cracked the code, right? Maybe they had success very early on in dating, so they never developed a transactional mindset. Men who got turned down early on developed a strategy of transaction. Oh, if I just build my muscles up, if I just build my income up, then I will get this girl. I will cash it in and get the girl, right? But the dudes who were successful very early on, they never built a transactional strategy. So that's why these girls are very comfortable around them, because these dudes have already had success, so they never had to build a strategy of trying to get something from the girl. So that's why the girls are comfortable with them. right? But it's essentially the same thing. You just have to be very good at hiding that transaction by acting confident in yourself, by acting like you're gonna be fine if they turn you down, by acting like you're gonna do well. You know, like you can still keep a smile on your face if they say no. But essentially, it's transactional. Um, but like I'm saying, if you want to make a woman feel comfortable, don't ever let her feel that it's transactional. Don't ever let her feel like you're being kind just to get something. Even though, you know, you have to blur the lines, right? You have to blur the lines to where she cannot tell. If are you being kind because you want to be kind to her, or are you being kind because you want to get something? Well, if you're really good at what you're doing, it's going to be 50-50. You're being kind because you're confident in yourself and you don't need anything from her, but the other 50% of you obviously want something from her. That's why you're being kind. So you blurred the line to where they can't tell what's going on, right? And this is where women will find comfort in you. Yeah, this is a lot, but you have to blur that line. And it's hard, but you're gonna have to find it in yourself to be able to do that, right? And a big part of it is just taking action, right? um yeah, a big part of it is just taking action. If you just take action, ask out girls, you can get dates even by not being that much. I've seen videos of guys in faking like they're in a wheelchair and going out in the street and getting dates because they just ask. They just talk to girls and they ask. So they don't even have to be anything. They're just asking, simply asking questions, asking girls out. But yeah, you have to understand that women consider it inhuman to think in a transactional way. Like, I'm gonna be nice to you to get something. Or I'm gonna be handsome so I can get you to go out with me. Even though that's kind of what's happening, women don't want to recognize it. So you also have to live as if you don't recognize it. That's a lot. I hope that makes sense. Drop a comment if you can kind of understand what I'm saying, because I feel like this will help you a lot, and it helped me a lot. So alright, have a good one. Good night. Peace.